Welcome to the Remember When podcast. I am your host, J.U. Culcrick, and as always, alongside the Stanford nerd, the legal analyst, the professor, Deb, is here. And also
calling us out.
Nerds, keeping us on time, on track, making us look good, making us sound good. From all the back end stuff is producer Ray. We have a great show planned for you today. Excited about it. We have a great guest coming on. But as always, let's pay a little bills. The Remember When podcast is powered by Taguava Coffee. Taguava is a great cup coffee with a great model from farm to cup. Every single order that's placed, a percentage of that order is donated back to the community that the coffee is grown and picked and all that good stuff. Water filters go back to those communities with every single order. And the best part about Taguava Coffee, when you order, what happens, Deb?
Free shipping.
Free shipping. Who doesn't
10%
like
off
shipping?
and free shipping.
Yes. Go to Taguava.com and use the promo code Remember When at checkout, and you will get 10% off your order. Taguava Coffee powers the Remember When podcast. Deb, how's it going?
Going good. I am looking forward to tonight's podcast. I'm looking forward to our guest, and I'm looking forward to having one more fun fact than you do.
Well, I think I have exactly the first fact that I think that you're gonna take. So I'm gonna pull. I don't know. I'm gonna go first this time. Speaking of fun facts, let's jump into it. The year that we chose is 2016. The reason we chose 2016 is because our guest that's going to be on, she started her sports agency business in the year of 2016. I'm trying to think what I was doing in 2016.
It really actually wasn't that long ago, which is really, really impressive when we get to Sam, our guest, because she's done so much in such a short period of time.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's 5-6 years. That's all.
Exactly. What were you doing?
Remember that far back?
Definitely. So yeah. So if you been watching the show, you know what we do. I give 5 fun facts about 2016. Deb gives 5 fun facts. If you haven't been watching the show, I just told you what we do, so you should know now. You know what, Deb? I try to be. I'll go first.
Go first, because I know what you're going to say. I think I've got it. So I've got a counter fact.
All right. In 2016, President Barack Obama became the first U.S. president to visit Cuba in 88 years.
You know, I actually did have that one, and that was not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were going to go with this one. In 2016, Hillary Clinton became the first woman ever nominated for president by a major party.
Democratic Party.
And if you'll recall, shattering the glass ceiling and all of that.
Yes, I remember that. I remember the song, "This Is My Fight Song." And then it's played as the glass ceiling shattered. Very cool. Very cool moment. Very cool moment. All right. There it is.
Yeah.
Not to get too political here. I think she chose a bad running mate. but who am I?
Yeah, I'm the next. We know who won that election.
Yes. All right, I'll go next.
Okay.
Last week I gave a Pizza Hut fact about setting the Guinness record. This week I'm giving another Pizza Hut fact. Pizza Hut set the Guinness World Record for delivering a pizza at the highest altitude at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, geez. They actually delivered a pizza to Mount Kilimanjaro?
Yes.
Wow. That's impressive. That's, yeah. I wonder what tip the delivery person received.
Right.
That one.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna I get a little techie on some of these things. So I'm gonna say in 2016, which is not that long ago, the iPhone 7 was introduced.
Very nice.
How many people still have their iPhone 7s? I think we're way past that now.
Hey, not too long. Like a few months ago, I just got rid of my iPhone 8. So,
okay.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, and think about that. Think about how rapidly technology is changing.
Exactly.
When we get to that, an iPhone 7 was the big deal. And they had that camera. And now, I've got the 11 with the camera, and we've gone through every iteration.
Right. Exactly. It's crazy how the technology just changes. So it seems like every 2 years there's something new, bigger, better, and faster coming out.
Mm-hmm. And it's so rapid now.
Yep. All right. In 2016, are you a Game of Thrones fan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So maybe you were one of these people. Game of Thrones was the most pirated TV show in the year 2016.
The most pirated?
Yes. People were stealing it illegally and watching it.
Oh, boy. Yeah, Game of Thrones got way ahead of the books. I'm still waiting for the book to find out what really happened.
See, I have not seen an episode of Game of Thrones.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
You've got to watch it. Start at the beginning. Khal Drogo, you've got to, it's a classic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Queen of Dragons
I think you're up.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go, this is not a great fact, but keeping along the movie theme, Professor Snape, Alan Rickman, passed away in 2016 at the age of 69. He played Professor Snape in all the Harry Potter movies, which is a very sad day for all of us Potterheads.
See, another thing, I have never seen a single Harry Potter as well.
I know. We're going to fix that.
All right, let's keep with the movie.
All the fans listening, if you think JU should watch Harry Potter or Game of Thrones, let him know.
Someone already said I need to watch Harry Potter. I'm sorry, Game of Thrones. So, another sticking with the movies, and also another franchise that I have never seen a single episode of. In 2016, Star Wars Rogue One was #1 in the box office, and I've never seen a single episode of Star Wars.
I have nothing to say to that. You've just named 3 of my favorite. Okay, well, why don't we oh yeah, there we go. Saw every one of them. So let's switch it up a little bit. In 2016, Meghan Markle started dating Prince Harry. Think about all that's happened since then.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I used to watch Meghan Markle on the show Suits. Yeah, exactly.
Which, Fun fact, I've never seen.
Ah,
A
gotcha.
lawyer show that I've never watched.
Yeah. All right. So you go next. You go again. Go double whammer because mine will be a great segue into our guests.
Okay, I'm gonna go double whammer. Let's say Leonardo DiCaprio finally won an Oscar for Best Actor in The Revenant.
Ooh,
Yeah,
very nice.
yeah. Took a long time for him, but he got
it. Yeah, he's done some good stuff before that, and he never won. So that's crazy.
Austin Swenson, I love that comment. J.U., this is getting ridiculous. Watch Harry Potter and Star Wars. A knife to my heart. Sorry, I had to repeat that one.
I've made it this far without, and my life is okay. So I think I'll get along. You know, I've seen Breaking Bad. Have you watched Breaking Bad?
Every episode.
Nice. All right. Okay. So my fifth fact. All right. In 2016, the cost of a 30-second Super Bowl commercial was $5 million.
Wow.
Yes, for a Super Bowl commercial. And so with that, speaking of Super Bowl, football, everything, our guest today, we talked earlier about, Hillary Clinton breaking the glass. Our guest is a glass breaker. She's in a profession dominated by males. Sam Tiger. She has a passion for sports and entertainment. In 2016, Sam launched her sports management, Sam Tiger Management for sports and entertainment. She's a NFL Certified Contract Advisor as well as a marketing agent for NFL, CFL, and MLB, as well as other professional athletes, entertainers, everything. So this is really cool to have Sam on. Sam, you're muted right now.
There we go. Unmuted.
Sam, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I haven't seen many of those shows either, I will say, but I have seen Harry Potter.
You see?
Thank you.
And
of course.
You know, I gotta give a shout out to Sam, all right? Because Sam is, like I say, she's one of the hardest working agents out there. I have an agent, and my agent doesn't work as hard as Sam works. Sam's always follow each other on social media. She's always on the road. She's always at a college game, a baseball game, one of her people's charity functions, foundation work, everything like that. And one of the biggest things is she might not admit this. I'm going to put her on the spot here right now. She might not admit this, but I think deep down, Sam is, well, I think she'll admit it. She's a Bills Mafia at heart.
The Bills Mafia has definitely, they launched my career.
Yes.
You know? I mean, we've got some Fred Jackson.
Check out the wall and behind. Check out that wall.
I will not wear a jersey because I don't wear jerseys. That's just not my style. But always. I mean, I have my teams. So, I mean, I haven't done business with the Bills. I have not to this day, but I'm always going to cheer for the Bills because, like I said, they really jump-started my clients from the Bills.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, for Aaron Williams, Freddie J, all those guys, great guys doing great things in the community and everything like that. And you're champion all their efforts and stuff like that. Good stuff. But hey, let's get into it. All right, Sam, you love sports. You start you started in young. Your father traveled around a lot, and you had the opportunity to go to all different, sports cities and see different sports, everything. How did you get involved with, what was the moment that was like, wow, I really love sports and I want to do something with sports?
Well, it was actually kind of funny. So I was a competitive dancer my whole life. So I did it pretty much 6 to 7 days a week. We trained after school, and then, my dad worked for General Motors, so we moved every like 2 to 3 years. And I was always involved in dance, and that was my sport. Whether or not you consider dance a sport, that was what I dedicated my time to and everything. So on Sunday, my dad, wherever we lived, we would always go and watch the Colts. I grew up a Peyton Manning fan. I loved that team with Tony Dungy, Jeff Saturday, Edgerrin James, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison. Like, that was my childhood team. And that was my thing as a kid. You know, I didn't really look up to your pop stars. You know, I grew up in the Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, that pop kind of genre time. And I was like, I don't really care about that. I like the music. I have to dance to it. But in my free time, I was watching football, and I loved football, and I wanted to watch football movies. I didn't really want to watch dance movies or cheerleading movies. So every Sunday, that was very consistent in my life, was watching football with my dad. And I wanted to watch the Colts. Wow. If you know about the Colts, back after they moved from Baltimore, they weren't the most popular team. So it'd be on like a corner TV, and we'd have to go sit in the corner to watch it. But it was very consistent in my life that wasn't consistent growing up. From moving around, I was always the new girl, so on and so forth, which it led into my personality and I think my career today. But that's when I kind of was like, of course, I love dance. I didn't see it there. I was good at it, but that wasn't the future. And when I was thinking about, okay, what's the next step? I like sports. And I remember I told my dad, we were having this conversation, and he said, well, what do you like? Because I didn't know what I wanted to do at the next phase. You know, you're going to school, you're undergrad. Because I ended up actually going to a boarding school in Canada for the last 2 years of high school. I went to 3 different high schools. So 9th, 10th, and 11th grade were different. So he's like, what do you like? I said, I like football. He's like, well, you're not going to play. I'm like, no kidding. He gave me the best advice, and I give this advice today. He said, you know what? Figure out what you love and try to make a living doing so. It wasn't you have to try. And that's what I did. I ended up finding a great sports management program. I'm actually an adjunct professor teaching the exact same course that I did years ago at Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. And that was kind of the start of it. So
nice. So before, you know, you got into like the sports agent side of things, you worked events for ESPN and all that stuff, right?
Yes, the college bowl games.
Yeah. So what was that? How did you get hooked up with that, and like what exactly did you do through that?
I applied. And it was kind of funny because I feel like, as it is in sports, right? There's sometimes this stigma that small school players, it's so hard for them to make it to the NFL, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's the same thing. Oh, I was working with people that went to Clemson, UNC, Alabama. Where is this girl that didn't even have a football program at her school? Where's she coming from? I'm like, I always say closed mouths don't get fed. So I tried. I had the experience. I volunteered, and I ended up getting ESPN was while I was still in school. And then after that, I was team operations for the Orange Bowl, meaning I planned every single event, from the dinners, from the coaches' dinners to the players' meals to buses, if the fire truck's going to come in and shoot the cannons when the plane arrives. It was a lot. So I planned basically like 30 events in 7 days in a 7-month period. So you have to learn. Yeah, it was fantastic experience. It was just a lot, but it got me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely. And so now you do all that, and you're working, you know, with these bowl games, these programs, everything like that. When was it that clicked? You know, like, hey, you know, I want to go more on the agent side of things, because, you know, to put it quite, there's not a lot of female agents out there. So like, what made you decide like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what and I'm going to go and do it.
Yeah, that's a great question. As a kid, I really always wanted to be an agent, but that was what I saw. I didn't see because I feel like women in sports, when I was growing up, we didn't see that. We really didn't see many sports careers in general because, I mean, I grew up pre-MySpace. MySpace was like my thing in middle school and elementary. So we didn't really have access to seeing people's lives. And I mean, we can say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I always wanted to be an agent. I liked Jerry Maguire. I thought it was very elaborate. And it's funny, I always joke now. I'm like, I am Jerry Maguire. Help me help you. That is me. Did I lose you guys? Okay.
I think we've got you back now.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay, so you're Jerry Maguire now. I listened to your podcast all about Jerry Maguire the other day. All your quotes.
It's all so factual.
All about relationships.
It is. And there was a moment that I was sitting in the players' lounge at the Orange Bowl, and I was speaking to a player who still is in the NFL. He got drafted in the first round, and I knew enough. I didn't know it all by any means. And I was so excited to hear about how he felt about the next step. And he was just so timid. He was not that he was going to be jumping for joy about it, but he just seemed, when I brought it up, I got a sense from him physically, mentally, that it gave him stress. Maybe it wasn't his choice. Maybe it didn't feel right. It wasn't something that felt like he was comfortable. And he seemed comfortable that whole time. And for me, like, relationships are huge, right? And in that 3-4 days that I spend with that team, I was there when Georgia Tech beat Mississippi State. Once again, I'm not going to say who this player is, but it was a huge upset from Georgia Tech. And I just thought, that sucks. I'm like, that really sucks, because it's just that this should be one of the best times. You've done everything right. I mean, he really has and had, and you seem really stressed. And maybe it's self-inflicted pressure, but this only happens once. And I always like to say that no matter how stressful this gets, it only happens once. So that was the moment that in my head that I did not. Maybe I can come into this business and change that feeling for a player. Like, I never want them to feel stressed. I mean, there's going to be stress. That's the nature of the business, but you have to enjoy the process, because I never want them to look back and say, wow, I feel like that stress that I didn't need to stress about, or maybe I could have made a different choice with my representation, or maybe I should have chose my representation and not everyone else around me, and look back and regret it. Because once again, it only happens once. You're only in that draft class one time. So that was the moment that kind of clicked with me, and I'll never forget that.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, you're coming in, you obviously haven't played football. You're just, it's the relationship. And Jayu, this is a great question for you. How do you choose that representation? Because you're right, you're only in that draft class once. How, kind of a question for both of you, who told you who to use? And Sam, how do you convince a kid basically that you know what you're doing when you can't say, I've ever played it down?
I'll jump in here. For me, it was really crazy, because it's that time when you got a lot of agents trying to approach you, a lot of people telling you how great you are, what they can give you, what they can do for you. You're going to go train at this place in Florida. You're going to do this. You're going to have be put up in this luxury apartment and everything like that. And as a kid in college, you're like, wow, that sounds great. But for me, the best thing was the way I picked my agent, it was a guy I wanted. I didn't want to go with a big agency. I wanted a quote unquote mom and pop shop because I knew that I could pick up the phone anytime and give them a call, that he would answer the phone. He would be there for me, give me great advice. And I had a couple buddies that had the same agent and said nothing but good things about him. And, so that's how I chose it, because I wanted to stay in like a small market, agency that I felt more than a number.
Yeah.
It sounded like Jerry Maguire. So Sam, how do you convince Jayu that he wants to go with you?
I mean, convinced to me is a strong word. I start early, in all honesty.
Mm-hmm.
We have our ways of recruiting, and I always tell first year agents, I say or even agents, that people that want to become agents, it's never too early to start understanding the business and making connections, networking, making those relationships, because it's once you pass that test, once you get that you are a contract advisor, it's very stressful. The passing rate's like 39%. Right. But I say nobody, unless you have people that you have, like your people, relationships, nobody's there out to help you. There's no book. There's not one way to do this. And it's very unethical. That's one of my favorite. I'm an adjunct sports management professor, as I said, and ethics is something that I love teaching because it really baffles my students. They're like, well, what's right? What's wrong? I said, that's up to you. You have to make that decision. And that's going to be huge. And we have examples. But for me, it was honestly, the way I approach it is starting early. Okay. And now with NIL, I will say it's very helpful that we can assist them. And I say assist in the sense that I'm not looking to get money from these players. I mean, in all honesty, I am going after mid round, late round to priority free agent players that they're probably not going to get a lot of money. But if I can assist them in getting some free product through some local businesses or whatever it may be, they can see how I work. And that's really showing them how my representation will be in the future. And my approach is, hey, this is me. This is how I approach things. By all means, it's your decision. I want you to see. I was in sales. We're salespeople, but I don't love sales. For me, it's like, okay, this is what it is. And if you like it, great. If not, we can still be friends. I don't like burning bridges. I don't understand. I'm sure everyone's heard, agents that are so annoyed or frustrated when someone terminates them and they say awful things. Like, I'll never understand that either, because this is a very small world, and it's, once again, relationships matter until we all become robots, which might be soon, but until then, relationships matter. And I like to, I'm a person of my actions and not my words. So of course I should have a presentation, but I'll be there. Like, I'm on the road. I'm going to come to your game. I'm going to meet with your family. So that's kind of my approach. And has it worked? Yes. Has it failed? Yes. I don't think it's, when you're working in a service industry, you just never know.
Well, you brought up NIL. What are your thoughts on NIL?
Oh boy.
How much time do we have? It's about time.
You got two profs on this.
Yes, and by the way, Deb, she's a professor.
I see that. I love that.
She's a sports law professor at Michigan State, and she's also sports inequality professor as well. So
you have to connect offline.
We will. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot that we could offer each other.
Absolutely. It's about time. However, I describe it as the Band-Aid got ripped off. That's the best way to describe it. And I hope, I mean, and I say this respectfully, I hope that we get some sort of a regulation on it. And I don't know where this is going to come from, but I've seen a lot of athletes get hurt from it, from agents and agencies or people that call themselves agents for NIL that aren't qualified or they don't understand the space. You know, and I think in all honesty, I had to learn with representing influencers. So if somebody has X amount of followers and they want to, a company is coming to us asking for a rate. What is that rate? How does that fall into play? Just because you are a Power 5 school athlete doesn't mean that that changes in that industry space. And I think that I heard it, and I've heard it actually from companies that I've done business with, from my entertainers, that they said, we're never going to work with that agent before. And I said, that stinks because that's hurting the athlete. And it doesn't mean the agents aren't great attorneys or they're not great at negotiating NFL contracts, but understanding the space you're working in. But that reverts back to ripping the Band-Aid off. And it was, you know, free for all. But I do believe it's time. And I think that I've seen a lot of great things come from it. But on the flip side, I said this in a recruiting call the other day, the NFL is not signing players based on what they got from NIL.
Right.
So if it gets out of hand, it can hurt you. And, you know, it's almost like, I don't want to say growing up too fast, but it's something that potentially can hurt them if the focus falls too far into the NIL space, in the marketing space, and off of the actual play.
So my thing is, I don't know if there's these checks and balances in place. I think some colleges have it in place. Are people, for these kids, because these are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, you know, going and getting a $500,000 NIL deal. Are there someone saying, hey, you know, you got to pay taxes on this? You know, because one of my big fears is a kid's going to take this $1 million NIL deal, and 5 years from now, the IRS is coming after him for back taxes and stuff like that. Are there checks and balances in place, or is that to their agency to get these things, you know, to help these kids out?
Boy, Jayu, that's such a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you the legal background and let Sam answer how she sees it. If you,
that'd be great.
Because I can't keep quiet on that one, because you know, NIL is such a big deal. The issue is that less than a year ago, the Supreme Court, I mean, despite the fact that we have 6+ different bills in Congress trying to regulate NIL, they didn't act fast enough on a federal level. So what we have is the Supreme Court said basically NIL is ready to go July 1st of 2021. NIL, Band-Aids ripped off, as Sam says. Everybody's scrambling. Some states had NIL legislation in place already. Some of them are actually backing off of that, because if you don't have it in place, the school gets to decide. The NCAA is now coming back in some ways and attempting to regulate, but the genie's out of the bottle at this point. So it's, I mean, it is truly the wild, wild west, where each school, each state, everything is completely different. And a lot of it has to do with how good an athlete you are, but what kind of influencer you are. And with that, Sam, I know you started your agency as a marketing agency, and then, you know, in 2019 got your certifications, your player certification. So I want to talk to you about that too. But
it is so wild. And once again, like, I think it's a difficult thing for me, because even when I speak on NIL, I don't mean to sound as monotone and not excited, but I also know that during the draft process, never once, I don't care who you are, they don't care about your NIL. They really don't. And there are teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't want you doing a radio interview. No matter who you are, they want focus on making the team. Like, let's not forget that. So I think at the end of the day, I don't know. And I haven't even thought about this. And it's a great conversation to have because it hasn't even been a year. July 1st was the Band-Aid, the official rip. But it's like, okay, do you want to be an influencer or do you want to play football or your sport? But then we can have a happy medium with it. It's just like, to be honest, like, let's be real. The majority of college athletes are not getting $1 million deal.
Right.
So I think it comes down to the communication if they are going to choose representation. Focusing, because I had an offensive lineman actually from UCF, and I said my approach is this: local, if you go somewhere, endorse what you like because they're going to see you, they're going to recognize you. And NIL, right? Before, you could never get free product because that technically is against NCAA guidelines. So now we can. Let's see if we can do, in my Jerry world, help me help you. Give us free product. We post on social. You have the blue check. It's a win-win. And it worked out. However, not everyone sees it that way. But it's the same thing. I say this: NIL is a mirror of what the NFL is in marketing too. I mean, let's be real here. Not everyone is getting $1 million endorsement deals. They're just not.
Well, I think one thing that NIL definitely is helping. I think it's helping collegiate women athletes.
Yes, women.
I think that's big. And then you can pose the question, are they reaching out to these women for their athletic abilities, or are they reaching out to these women for the fact of the way that they look and they're athletic?
Yeah, my answer is probably going to not be the best answer, but it's just, if that's always going to be a part of it. It is. And, I always, if I don't represent any women at this point in time, but I would love to, from being a dancer and just understanding the space and the pressure that comes on, dance, cheer, gym, like gymnastics. But I think that women will be okay with that, to be honest.
It does cut both ways, I will say. It does, because, a good-looking male athlete is going to get endorsements too.
I don't know. There's some ugly athletes out there.
I'm not.
It's like some ugly athletes get the pretty girls too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying it cuts both ways.
I don't know, Deb. I have to disagree with you on that one. I think
numbers, and not contract numbers. Your social numbers. It's such a crazy space. When I started my intro to sports management class, so freshman, and then I taught it again at the end of this past year. So I had some freshmen, some seniors, taken as elective. I said, okay, who has cable TV? And they were like, what's that? Literally. Literally, I was like, y'all don't have like direct TV or anything? They're like, Professor, are you that old? I was like, you look good for your age. I'm like, I live in South Florida, but I said, okay. And then I led into, okay, now we're seeing our ads, they're being shifted from commercial advertising to our streaming, our Instagram, our Reels, having this, IGTV, YouTube, this and that. And then I said, okay, well, who has Netflix? Everybody. Who has Hulu? Everybody. So it's shifting. And once again, where are we getting those influencers, so on and so forth? a lot of them come from having strong social media numbers. I have an influencer. It's actually a brother of one of my former NFL players. He has 2.2 million followers. And honestly, it just came from him doing something that he loves. And that's cooking, but he's not a chef and he doesn't talk. So it's a niche community that he found. And like the first deal I did for him was 10 grand. And then it's only gone up from there for creating what he does. He doesn't have to even speak.
Right.
It's his content. But it's amazing that it's product placement. So I always, it doesn't fall into my sports management area, but advertising is changing 100% because, if these 2.2 million, millennials and Gen Z are not watching cable TV, they're on Instagram, they're watching Reels, they're on TikTok. So it's very interesting to me. So I always tell my athletes, your numbers are important because you have to now consider yourself somebody that is going to represent their brand. Just because you are a phenomenal athlete, which you are, doesn't mean that we're going to be able to get that number unless we hit that in other areas too.
So speaking about your athletes and advising them and everything like that, the world is totally changing. The last few years, we've seen so many, people speaking out on different things. What do you tell your athlete, someone that you're representing, feels strongly about an opinion one way or the other? Are you looking out for them like, hey, this is going to affect your bottom dollar? Are you saying, hey, you got to do what you're passionate about? Like how do you approach that as an agent? I'm not saying you don't have to say, any specific conversations you have with anybody, but how would you, how do agents approach that with their clients? Someone that, doesn't like, what's going on with gun violence or, anything like that, what are this, what do you do as an agent?
I'll make it really easy. I say, approach it like Richard Sherman. Articulate your views, articulate how you feel, because that's fine. That is fine. I believe in that because that's how I approach it. That's how I approach life. I think that communication is key. If we don't communicate and we can't articulate things, well, communication number one, but if you don't articulate it, we can't communicate. So I don't know what you mean. Yeah, Richard say what you want about him, but he's extremely smart. He's articulate, and he has been over the years.
Sam, I'm gonna you're getting Deb all worked because Richard Sherman's a Stanford grad. She's a Stanford grad.
Oh, you love it? Okay. whoa. Stanford.
Yeah. So.
Oh, fear the tree. Fear the tree.
The tree follows me on Twitter. That was my greatest accomplishment.
I love it. I've got my let me see, my Fear the Nerds.
Yeah, let's go.
And then of course on the other side.
Yes. My sister married a Notre Dame fan. I was like, oh no.
Oh gosh, no.
No. But I would say
I guess it's one step above Berkeley, but
I know. The tree is so funny. I've been single for a very long time, and the tree is like, I love you so much. I'm like, I love you too, tree, on Twitter. We haven't. I actually looked the other day because I haven't been on social media very much because I've been so busy. I'm like, I hope the tree didn't unfollow me. But I say articulate. I want my clients to speak because that's how we make connections and that's how we make progress in society, in my opinion. I don't ever say what you can and cannot say. If they ask me my opinion on, okay, what should I do if there's ever that situation, of course, but I'm going to ask them, how do you feel about it too? Because At the end of the day, I am not you. And the teams are smart. They pick up on it. Fans are smart. Being authentic matters. Nobody wants to buy into something that's fake. So that's why I always say, study Richard. There is what is it? It's an E60. And it's from a long time ago, but it shows him in his house in Compton, and then going to Stanford, and then everything, and speaking about what his family went through. And it's good. I don't even know what it was from a long time ago, but I'm all for it. But articulation. So if you're going to make a statement, I want it to be backed up. I need it to, because we can't come out and make statements that people are going to make judgments on. So you need to be clear, and that's going to take some thought. But that these conversations that cause, I don't want to say debate, whatever the word is, we have to, if you're strong about it, you should have some things to back it up. I mean, it's, we don't go to school and write papers for a reason. So
yeah. All right. So, let's talk about the whole process now. You have a client, you've got this client, he leaves college, he signs with you, he goes through workouts, has a phenomenal pro day, and it's draft day. What's your role in draft day? I know my role, what my agent was doing draft day, but you're dealing with kids still. Emotions are flying. Teams are saying, "Hey, we're going to take you in this round," and then nothing happens. How are you there to support and control those emotions?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's setting me and my business partners set expectations. So I actually have two business partners that I call my Buffalo brothers. They're two young agents. One's an attorney, and one is another person that they advised me when I was living in Buffalo, and we co-represent together, even though we have two separate agencies. But someday I feel like we'll merge together. They're just like, you're too bold for our generation sport. Yeah, my logo's too bold anyways. But we have conversations beforehand. I don't believe in clients going into this highly anxiety. It's very, no matter where you're at or where you think you're at, there's so much emotion that you see weeks beforehand with the commercial, so on and so forth. So I just want to make sure that they understand that, your name's not going to be on day one, because if you're a first rounder, that, or at least you think. We've seen some crazy stuff happen this past draft with the Patriots drafting a guy from Chattanooga that they didn't even have a photo on. That is the Patriots to a T. Belichick, my fave. But we just set expectations. We keep it 100. I think I'm a true believer in transparency. You can't go wrong with telling the truth. It might be uncomfortable. For me, it's not, because that's just how I live my life. But if you're honest, there's no questioning, right? Like, oh, I thought I was getting drafted in the 6th. Why don't I have a mini camp invite? If you can keep it positive and also honest, I think that's the best way, and that's what we did this past draft class. I had actually an NAIA client, JD Woods, who I actually spoke to before we were on the call, and he had 6,666, which is the number I'll never forget. I'm like, rushing yards his whole career, and just insane numbers. He broke every single record. But the question mark was, he's NAIA. He's not, like, what? So he went to an all-star game. He didn't get invited to advance on. And then he went to Kansas Pro Day. He was one of the very lucky few small school guys that got invited to KU Pro Day. And I flew in for the day, or at least I thought. I ended up getting stuck in Austin, Texas, trying to get back to Miami. But I came in, and the agents, they like the agent corner, because the Power 5 schools like to have agents in a corner, thinking we're going to do some crazy stuff, talking to the current players in the other corner. but he came in and he absolutely balled out. And I have never had scouts run up to me after. He ran a 4.37, like 3 teams had him at that. And then after that, you know, we had calls with the Patriots, with so many other, the Seahawks actually were the ones that kind of told us about him too. So going back to the relationships with teams matter too, because if they like a player that is under the radar, they're going to reach out to agents that they like, that they know are going to do right by the player. So he ended up, I don't think that was the right JD Woods, but it's okay. Baker University, actually, yeah, NAIA. And he ended up going to Seattle Seahawks minicamp. But my story is, we thought we were going to have at least 5 to 6 offers, because that's where the interest was.
Right.
We were having teams call us. And then, you know, we said, okay, nothing's going to happen on day 1. Day 2, probably not. Day 3, I'm sitting with my 2 phones. I'm lead on him, meaning they're going to call me. And I'm like, nothing's coming in. Okay. Let me reach out. Let me see where things are at. And he's a running back, which that position. So I'm writing it down. Okay. So I'm like reaching out to Detroit Lions. Okay. And we got through it. And it just, that was not what I expected. So through that time, I was communicating with him, and you always kind of have that worry. I'm frustrated that we advised him. It wasn't just myself, it was my business partners. We advised based off of what we thought, our experience, that he was going to have, we thought, at least 3 to 4 or 5 offers, and we were going to select. But after that, he went to minicamp in Seattle, did not get signed, and now he's on 8 teams short list, meaning, as you know,
right,
the next up. But we didn't know, because, and I don't regret advising that, because that's what we had coming in. And with him, our communication was so strong that he said, Sam, I understand. I'm an NAIA player. But I think we were just like frustrated, because so it can be hard. I mean, it's a case-by-case basis. However, I just like to keep it as real as possible.
Right. Definitely. Go ahead, Deb.
I have a quick question. The getting your certification, you got that in 2019. That is like a huge, huge, big thing. I think you mentioned earlier, 39% pass rate. Tell us, you know, how did that happen? Because first of all, not a lot of women even try it. And secondly, not a lot of people who try it actually get the certification.
Yeah,
you know,
and are able
how hard is it? Come on, tell us all how hard it really is.
I mean, I think, in all honesty, I think if you love it, when you're studying that material, you love it. But I mean, you have to have an advanced degree. So either, you know, your JD, MBA, I have my MBA. So you have to have that, but you can't walk in and expect, I don't have my CBA with me, but I took it on the last CBA. So you can't expect to come in and think it's, oh, well, how many players are on an active roster? 53. It's actual work. You know, it's like
hard. It is studying the 300 plus page CBA, and you've got to know the rules.
Exactly. And you have to know where to go, because it's timed. So that was the biggest thing. And I had like color tabs, and I knew where to go. But it was funny, because there was an agent, I'm in Florida, there was an agent out in LA. We were studying together, and we ended up sitting next to each other. We were the last class before 2020 to take it in person. So it's only once a year.
Right.
The Ritz-Carlton in DC.
It's like taking the bar exam.
Yeah. And you're all
it's like one for the whole country. It's
literally
intense.
And it was funny too, because the first 2 days? Yeah, it's 3 days. So the first 2 days are like the review seminar, whatever they want to call it. And at the end, they have question period. And the questions confused me because I'm like, I prepared so well. These ridiculous questions are freaking me out. So I just laughed. I was like, I need to go. I have to go. This is gonna mess me up. I did not study at all while I was in DC. I called my mentor, Kelly Masters, and then my current business partners. And they were like, you're fine. Just go order some of your fancy room service since you're staying there and sleep.
What are some of the questions on the test? I got it.
They'll be like, so player A and player B get into an argument in the locker room, and player B, so you'll think someone gets a DUI, and then they'll talk about both of them. So you're reading it line by line, and then it ends up being like a salary cap question. So you have to almost look at it from the bottom up to see, or it's just you have to know where to look. Some of them are so easy where it's like, okay, such and such player A was on the practice squad for 16 weeks in 2018. How much money did he make? So if and that player's team had a bye week in week 14. If you don't know practice squad is week by week, you would think to eliminate that bye week. So that would make you lose out on that question, because you would assume that you would eliminate that bye week. But because that player was on the practice squad, he gets paid that week. So but you have to know that.
All those little red herrings.
Exactly. You have to study and understand it. So yeah, it's very, it was a good time. I'm glad I passed it. But I have a funny story because the guy I studied with in LA, at one point he looked over to me, and I'm 5'2" and he's like 6'5", and he was like, they're walking around, looking. I mean, we test too. I'm like, we don't have the same. He goes, what'd you get? He goes, if looks could kill, you killed me 8 million times. I'm supposed to be kicked out of here. Are you kidding me? So wow. I think when I passed, I was like 48 or 49. It's so crazy. I don't think we've hit 100 yet.
Wow. Wow. And you also passed MLB too, right?
No, I do marketing for MLB.
Oh, okay, just marketing.
If I were to, I would take MLB, but I had a friend actually from South Florida that played for the Giants, or actually got drafted Cardinals, P5 draft to the Giants. And I said, what are you doing for marketing? Because he's super marketable. He's African-American from Miami, Florida. I said, let me help you. I made a couple calls. And we got a couple deals. So that was that. But I always say, like I said, relationships matter in this business.
Yeah.
Because you never know where it's going to come.
And if nothing else, quote Jerry Maguire.
Help me.
Have you seen that movie, J.U.?
Yes, I've seen Jerry Maguire.
Okay. I'm feeling a little bit better now.
Only one of my students saw it in my classes. Oh my gosh.
I make it almost required. That and Arliss.
I've seen Arliss as well.
It is crazy. I'm like, they're like, Professor, you look good. I'm like, oh yeah, you shouldn't be saying that either, you guys. Like, it's
yeah. All right. Well, Sam, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And I'm going to end with this. I love your mantra, the mantra that you said, keep showing up. Yep. No matter what life throws at you, no matter what happens, at the end of the day, keep showing up. If I had an agent, that's something I would want them to tell me every single day. I go on a training camp, go on to practice, go on to games or everything like that. Just keep showing up.
100%. It's hard. And it's definitely hard. It's easier said than done, for sure.
Right.
Some days you don't think it's going to happen, right? You're like, I feel like I'm fighting this battle, or no one's going to see me. It's not going to happen. And as a woman, we stand out naturally. And it's kind of like, okay, are you going to make it? I feel like I've been under a microscope for a very long time. But you just keep showing showing up and the right people, your circle, it'll create itself. So it doesn't have to be so forced. I said that in the last podcast, or one of the last couple, I said, maybe we don't have to force things so much. Let's just let it be. Let's see the conversations we can have. And after that, the rest is history. So thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. Sam, we have a sister podcast called Sports Law, and that we got to have you on that. We talk about the CBA, we talk about the Gruden case, the Flores case.
My favorite.
Oh, yeah, we are.
So we're gonna book you. We're gonna book you for that.
My favorite kind of stuff.
Yes, definitely.
You and I need to chat.
We would have a great time.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for listening to the Remember When podcast, powered by Taguava Coffee. Go to taguava.com, use promo code Remember When, and get 10% off your order. And there's free shipping with every order. Hey, we appreciate you guys. Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Producer Ray. And we'll see you guys next week.